in our last live stream,
Yep.
you dropped some self-hosting bombs on me that I did not know.
I didn't realize that I'd been holding out, and I've been hosting a couple of things that apparently you didn't know about.
Yeah, well, okay. Full disclosure, this is the second time that I know of. Please tell me if I've done it more. That I have totally whiffed on what Dan said. I vaguely remember Dan saying the word Immich before.
Yes. Yeah, and probably with my terrible Northern New York dialect, you had no idea what I was really saying.
Well, because it happened before with Joplin. So I've been going through this existential crisis of note-taking apps because I care what my markdown looks like.
Yeah.
But Dan was like, Joplin.
Right. Try it.
Yeah, right. And for some reason, I was rubber and he was glue. And, anything he said bounced off me.
Just a bounce. Yeah, bounce.
Yeah. So, I kept ignoring the word Joplin until recently, and it looks quite delightful.
Yeah.
But anyway, what I'm trying to say is I'm sorry, Dan.
Oh, you're good. You're totally good. That's fine. Hey, some of the stuff I do, it makes work, so I can understand the hesitation to jump right in. But it's not a lot of work. It's not bad.
But I'm into it though. The Joplin thing, I'm totally into that. And into the self-hosting thing, I've got a little Git repository hanging out up here. I got a Nextcloud back here. I got Plex going on, man. Like, I'm no stranger to I've got a Raspberry Pi that needs something to do. So, yeah.
I got two things.
That one's on me. So, Immich though.
Immich. Now that
I know we brought it up before, but remind me, what is Immich and why do I want it?
So that's my ability to break free of, well, in my case, Google Photos. But if you had an iPhone, it would be...
I'm already sold. Getting Google out of your life?
Yeah. It'd be the same thing with Apple too, right? You could get that out of there. And so it's the way that I can sync my photos and videos, as long as they aren't too big. Well, I could still sync those, but...
The limitation is your pocketbook for how big your hard drives
how much you want to store, and where do you want to store it, too. You don't necessarily need those, like, always accessible, I suppose, but I definitely want my photos there so that I can look at them on my computer, on my phone, maybe share some, all of that stuff. And so Immich is like Google Photos replacement, really. It's a good one too. It will do the image detection, if you will, and it does.
I'm sorry, the image detection?
No, like, so facial recognition, it kind of has some of that stuff built in. And
really? Wait a minute, hold on. It's got AI?
No, I think it's just, not really, but sort of. But it's locally hosted, right? So
that's what an AI bot would say.
Like, we totally talked about how if we could host our own stuff, and it was AI, that we'd be kind of okay with that as long as it's doing
I'm on board, but I'm a cyborg, so that totally.
So, but it does. So it's not perfect, but it's pretty good, honestly. So you can go through and identify different people, and then it'll say, okay, everybody, all of the pictures of so-and-so, I can click on that, and it'll have a running list of everybody's pictures, or pretty close. It picks them out pretty good.
Yeah, I know it's a curse word on the show, but on iCloud, I can do the same thing, and it's actually really beneficial.
Google's been doing that for a long time, right?
Yeah. Well, but also Google's uploading it all.
It's gross.
Yeah, right.
So this is built in, self-hosted, and it does take a little bit of CPU, to make it happen right after you sync, because it goes through and does some churn to figure that out, right?
Okay.
The other cool thing that Google Photos has is like a history thing. So you can say, on this day, you took these pictures kind of thing,
Oh,
right? And it's
yeah.
nice to be able to say, oh, that happened a year ago or 4 years ago or 12 years ago, that kind of thing.
Dude, I don't think it's a recent thing, but I have this thing where I'm like, oh man, yeah, that happened a couple months ago. And then like
Mhm.
my wife or somebody else will correct me and they're like, dude, that happened in 2014. What? So
Yeah,
is that just getting older, or
probably.
do I have a problem?
No, that's probably just getting older. And then time flies and you go through a lot of things and you just lose track.
True.
Yeah.
The cool thing is though that that there'll be some tagging involved
Mhm.
on your images that will kind of help ground me at least and remind me that no, it was 10 years ago,
Yeah.
not 2 months ago. A bit of time happened in between, And so yeah. Huh. Okay.
Yeah, so like
That's really cool.
running down the whole thing is a timeline of years. So if you knew that you wanted to go back to 2015, you just scroll it back to 2015 and there you are. There's
That's
all your
super cool.
pictures and they're sorted by date, and it's a very nicely organized system for your photos, and it syncs. There's an app you install and you can pick which folders on your phone that you want to sync. And it just syncs those automatically. You don't even have to think about it. And you can pick whether you want to do that on Wi-Fi or if you want to do it on the mobile network, you can do that. Like all of those things are configurable.
I bought the unlimited plan, so I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
I pay way too much for it.
Yep.
I need to get some use out of it.
And that's totally fine. But I mean, based on your needs, you can tailor it any way you want, right?
That's really cool.
It can wait until you've got your phone plugged in and you're on your Wi-Fi network, and it'll say, okay, yep, you're plugged in.
Yeah.
It's time to
plugged
sync.
in, that's useful.
Yep.
But the data thing, nope.
Yep. And so then looking at it obviously is nicer on your computer to be able to look at your photos, right? Because you have a bigger screen to look at.
That is super cool.
And then you can take it and share it with other people. So that's pretty great.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's just photos. It's photo syncing. It does take a little bit to keep up with. You kind of got to watch the changelog a little bit sometimes because they'll do some changes.
Oh, I don't got to worry about that. My Docker containers get updated maybe like maybe a month. I'm probably giving myself way too much credit on that. So what you're saying is every couple of months, look at the changelog and do it regardless of what the changelog says, because that's exactly how I run everything.
There's a lot of updates.
Okay, so I'll be skipping like 20 at a time. That's great.
You might be able to, but you're going to have to read through all of those changelogs, right? Just to kind of watch the changes. It's not bad.
You say that, but as long as I hold the old container and don't destroy it, I just roll back. That's the beauty of containers.
They're very good about the documentation on what you need to change in your Docker Compose or whatnot.
I refuse to like ride a Linux distribution on the bleeding edge, but as far as like updating service containers in the background on Raspberry Pis or whatever random machine I'm running services on, I do kind of do that.
I'm bad.
Thinking about that now, that's kind of dangerous. Okay.
I run Watchtower and I tagged latest.
Well, right. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. Because like I do that too, because I just never went into the Docker Compose and changed that. So
yeah.
Huh.
So
okay.
But I'm using Watchtower, which automatically updates that stuff for me.
Yeah. Okay.
So living on the ragged edge, I'm there. And so that's how I know that sometimes there's breaking changes, because I've had a couple of times where I had to go in and say, okay, what changed?
Yeah.
It's usually not too bad. Just go in there and make a couple of tweaks and then boom, Bob's your uncle.
Yeah. And then I get like when I upgrade like Fresh RSS or something like that, I get really nervous when it takes an extra few seconds to start up or whatever. It's on a Pi 4. I'm like, it should be fast. But it takes an extra 24 seconds and I'm like, oh God, I broke it.
Crunching some database thing in the background.
Yeah, it's doing something. Yeah, exactly. So, okay. So I have one question.
Yeah.
This may be more on the AI naughty side, but one thing that I have found useful in iCloud, in iPhoto or whatever the Apple thing is, I can live without it. but super useful. I took a picture of a bug one day,
Mm-hmm.
and it was crawling along my floor. I was like, "What the heck kind of bug is it? It doesn't look dangerous, but I'll take a picture of it just so I can show my wife, or I can whatever." And then when I was going to share it, there was the little info button down there had sparkles on it. I was like, "Oh, I've never seen that before. What is that about?" Click on it. It's like, "Hey,
enhance your photo." Yeah.
Nope.
No.
This was like, "Hey, did you know this is a cucumber beetle?"
Really?
Yes. And so I run around and I start taking pictures of flowers and bugs and stuff. And one of the features of the photo app is that it will straight up tell you, within reason, I'm sure it's not super specific, but if it's easily identifiable, it'll straight up tell you, this is this kind of mushroom, this is this kind of flower, this is this kind of bug. So do you happen to know if Immich has anything like that built in?
I don't think so, right?
Okay.
It would have to know about that, and it'd have to be something that was locally, inside of the
I'll make
app
my pie
or
sweat.
database.
That's okay.
But I don't think so. The only thing I know of that it does is it does some transcoding, right? So you can have different size
cool.
images, right? And it
I like
does
that.
the facial recognition. Those are the two things that I know of that it really kind of churns on. It does some reverse geocoding as well.
I'm not a fan of that.
Well, it takes it from the metadata that's on your photo.
Right.
So you're already uploading that anyway. So
Well, I specifically turned that off.
And that's fine. Like I do too. And so it struggles on those, right? But if you wanted to use that feature, you could, and it doesn't really leave your computer, your self-hosted spot.
Oh, right. That's the saving grace to all of that.
Right.
Which would even encourage me to turn it back on,
Mhm.
because maybe I forgot where I was when I took that photo or whatever, and this would help me figure out, retrace my steps. Because as we've established, I have a bad memory. So, that'd be really cool. So maybe one day Immich will have something like that. If it requires downloading some kind of weird AI model to do that I'm all for it. This is the kind of stuff that I think AI is super useful for.
So they actually call it machine learning, not AI, but I'm
True.
just saying it is a bit like the hardware accelerated machine learning stuff is experimental.
Do I have to go buy an NVIDIA card now?
You don't have to, but if you did, if you wanted to.
But I could.
Yeah, if you had some CUDA cores that you could devote to this, it would be a lot faster, obviously.
I have avoided buying NVIDIA for
But
a
it
long
works
time.
fine without it because I don't have that. And it does do some of those things for you.
It probably just takes a little longer to churn through and figure it out or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you had 800,000 CUDA cores to throw at it, it would probably be pretty quick. Okay.
Yeah, which would be neat, right?
That's pretty cool, yeah.
I don't, but the fact that it does some of those things out of the box without a whole lot of configuration is really cool.
I was already sold before the bug identification. But
yeah, I don't have that, but that's pretty cool.
I feel like that would be a pretty cool feature to add to Immich, So
yeah, maybe someday.
We'll see how that goes. If I need to download 8 gigs of a model, I'm down. Let's go.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But there was one other thing that this is the one that blew my mind. I don't know why, but you and I a couple of years ago were real sad.
Yeah,
because we both got an email, I think, within a day of each other.
Yeah.
And Plex dropped a bomb on us that was like, hey, guess what? Your podcast gone.
No more podcasts.
Yeah, both of us used it
a lot. I used it a lot.
Yeah, multi-platform. It kept your status. It you can add anything you wanted to. There was a discover feature. Like it was a full-featured podcasting like following app thing. And Plex was just like, you know what? I'm not making us any money, so
goodbye.
It's gone. Yeah, later. That was sad. But you've kind of found a bit of a solution for that. But more than that, that's not even what it's for. It's good at that too.
Yeah, so this is Audiobookshelf, which is really, an audiobook
shelf.
Yeah, I mean, it's a place that you put all your audiobooks in.
It is exactly what it says it is.
It plays them back, and you can sort your library and all of that stuff, and that's kind of nice. And it can pull those down. But the other thing it can do that is kind of neat is it can pull in your podcasts. So if you have you have an RSS feed, you can drop them in there, and it'll automatically pull those in for you and sync that up.
You can get linuxuserspace.show's RSS feed at linuxuserspace.show. So just in case you haven't put that in there, I feel like if you're listening to the show right now, you have. But if you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't put us on your phone, maybe go do that. So, yeah,
it'll do that. It'll pull them in. It'll save them locally so that if something happens, you've got them on your self-hosted solution. But the thing that really I love. And so I do use a different podcast app for the most part, but the thing that I love that Audiobookshelf does, and it does it for free, is if I'm playing something on my computer, I can then pick up my phone and I can pick up where I left off from my computer, and then I can go
Audible
to my
style.
Yeah, I can go to my work computer, and then I can pick up where I left off from my phone and all of that. So that's a nice thing. I can have multiple devices and still keep my place throughout the history of what I've been listening to.
Yeah. So Plex can do that.
Yep.
They got rid of the podcast thing, but I don't even know that they actually fully ever supported audiobooks. They just have a couple of options that you can add to an audio library that kind of facilitates a better audiobook experience, but it's fine. But if there is a better solution, I'm on board. So Audiobookshelf seems to me to be that solution. Now, again, that curse word comes up again. I'm on an Apple device, and it looks like the iOS apps are in beta only, and there's apparently an Apple defined hard limit to how many beta users you can have, and that's 10,000. And apparently there are already 10,000 beta testers for this, which tells me that it's a good app.
It's time to go. It's time to go live. That's what it tells me.
So do good work, beta testers. I'm counting on you. Yeah. And when it comes out in a more stable channel, when it comes out on the App Store, I'm there. I'm ready. That way, I can put all of these, it's got to be 100 by now, audiobooks that I've gotten from Humble Bundle. Because, there's no other real easy way to listen to your audiobooks and consistent way to listen to your audiobooks on the go than to have some kind of solution like this. So right now, they're just kind of hodgepodged in Plex, but I'd like a better solution for it, and this looks like it.
Yeah, no, that is where this application really shines, is the audiobooks, and especially if you've got some DRM-free stuff that you've purchased, that you own, you can put them in here, and then you can get all of that in there in your own. Yeah, and then you can listen to it anywhere, which is nice. It'll pull down the cover art, if you will,
really?
for the books.
So it's got all that too.
Yeah, it's got all that stuff in there that you can link it up to, if that book exists on, Audible or whatever, it'll pull in the cover art and stuff from there so that it looks nice and whatnot.
Yeah, Plex is very hit or miss on that. Sometimes you won't even get lucky and it won't even pull down the right author, so it's the experience is clunky at best and just downright terrible sometimes. So this, I'm telling you, this, I'm excited to run a few more containers on these empty Raspberry Pis, because as we found out on the last live stream, I have an entire Pi that I thought I was doing something with, and I'm not. So yeah, this might be, I wonder how good the Immich face detection stuff will work on a low-powered ARM processor. I think that's going to be something that I'll have to come back and kind of report on.
I don't know about that one, but maybe it might be all right.
Right. It's going to be touch and go, but maybe it's good enough. I have a Pi 4 that I could kind of shuffle some things around, maybe run it over there.
Pretty well, honestly.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I'm pushing a Pi 2 right now to its limit using SyncThing. Like, the bottleneck there is the CPU power and the USB bus to be able to actually, like, I can't even get the full 10 megabits or megabytes per second that I should be getting because, it's all on the Ethernet and the USB and everything else is on the same bus. So yeah.
Yeah, so I'm running this in Docker on a VM that sits in my Proxmox, cluster.
Yeah.
And I don't have a whole lot of stuff devoted to it as far as resources.
Audiobookshelf, I don't imagine would take a whole lot. The Immich face detection stuff, that's where the real CPU kind of is going to come in and knock something over.
I mean, it's running a bunch of Docker things, and I've only given it one CPU and like 4 gig of RAM, so
okay,
it's not super hefty.
Got it. All right, so I've got 2 last questions for you.
Yep.
Photo stuff. That's great. You take pictures, usually not within your house. Sometimes you do, but usually it's out of people outside.
That's true.
Doing stuff, right? And audiobooks, I mean, locally that's fine, but when you're on your phone, when you're out and about, how do you actually get access to these things when you're not home?
So I have 2 solutions for that. And in each one of those has a different one just because I was mostly testing them out. No rhyme or reason to why I have 2 different ones.
Okay.
So one thing
just
I do
because you're a nerd. That's my favorite thing.
That's it. I got to try this stuff out. So one thing I do for Immich is I actually use a Cloudflare tunnel to get to that. So basically, Cloudflare acts like a proxy at that point. And it proxies all of your requests down to your thing.
And so that's like when you go to some websites, there Cloudflare pops up and it's like, we're making sure you're not a malicious guy.
Yeah.
And then after a couple seconds, it lets you through or whatever.
Sometimes.
This is the same kind of thing, but in front of your own services on your own network.
Yep.
Right. Where normally you would just be like an exposed port to the internet.
Yeah,
you've asked Cloudflare to sit right in front and say, be the bouncer. Make sure everything's cool.
That is an encrypted tunnel, so I don't have to open up a port for that. So my container reaches out to Cloudflare. It says, "Hey, I'm here," and then they talk to each other. So I don't have any open ports there. So that it's like a VPN kind of in between, right?
Yeah, it's kind of how like TeamViewer exposes like your machine out to the internet, but not quite, not really.
Right.
You have to have specific information to be able to connect to it. Yep. So there's like a central server keys out there.
You put some keys in and it connects, and then Cloudflare can pass the stuff back to you, and that's great. Cool. And so you can set up ACLs, so you can have geo IP type restrictions if you wanted to, and then ultimately if it detects some nefarious thing through whatever web application stuff
anybody from Australia basically,
well maybe, but if it detected some kind of brute force stuff going on, it will throw up a CAPTCHA, and so you'll have to go through the CAPTCHA stuff to get past that. So it's just a couple layers on the onion there, if you will, right?
Got it. Okay. So what's the other way besides doing a little Cloudflare finagle?
The other thing I use is Tailscale, and so I drop some Tailscale. I have a few Tailscale things configured, and so then I can turn Tailscale on my phone, and then I have access to all those, or I have Tailscale on my laptop, so then I can get back into some of my stuff on the local network that way. Tailscale has a broker, if you will, and that is what manages all of your connections so that things can find each other, more or less.
Yeah, so this is standing on top of the VPN technology WireGuard.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, so they are direct connections to each other at that point.
Right.
They don't go through Tailscale, only for the brokering of the connection.
Right. So you meet in the middle at a Tailscale node, but Tailscale has no idea really what's going on. They just have an idea of where the endpoints are.
Yeah, it's like SyncThing, kind of like the way SyncThing works, right?
Yeah. That's really cool. All right. So this is VPN, but better. Now, that means, though, that you have to log into Tailscale's website and kind of set these things up, right?
You do, to configure them all and get that all set up. You do need access to the Tailscale website to basically authorize your machines.
Okay. Well, speaking of authorization, I have a real question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
Passwords are bad. We know this.
Yeah.
TOTP, those one-time password things, make it a little better, but it's all still bad.
They're not great either.
Does Tailscale support the newest, latest, greatest, best password killer thing called Passkeys?
Not directly. Okay.
Okay. Oh, wait. Oh, okay. Is there hope?
Yeah, so they use different identity providers, and you could, in theory, set up a custom one. There's some options there. Go read that. I'm not going to explain that here. But out of the box, without doing anything, Google, Apple, GitHub, Microsoft, those are all supported identity providers.
Okay. So I have to use something from the big three, really.
Yeah.
Because GitHub is Microsoft. GitHub is just another version of Microsoft.
It's another, Microsoft identity provider, yeah. But since all of those support passkeys, technically you could.
Okay. All right. So I can use passkeys kind of in a one step away kind of situation. All right. Is Tailscale good enough that and I think this is more of a question for people that use Tailscale in general. I think Dan's going to tell me yes because Dan already uses Tailscale. But how do you log into Tailscale? Do you use your Google account? Is it an Apple thing? Do you Microsoft, what Windows hello? You let it look at your face and it's like, hey, guess what? You're into Tailscale. I mean, that's really cool, but I'm on this kick, man. Passwords are bad. One-time passwords are slightly better. I mean, there are a few other okay solutions, but nothing that actually gets supported widely, that's going to really be adopted by absolutely everybody. And it looks like Passkeys, which is a kind of an iteration on the thing that we do with SSH, the SSH keys, the openness. You generate a couple, you generate a public one and a private one. You put the public one all over the place and use the private one to authenticate. This is what Passkeys really is, but in a very digestible, human understandable, because you don't have to get that deep to really get it, way to do authentication. And this is kind of where I'm at. Like, if it'll do a passkey, I feel really good about it. So, is it worth me diving into it before they get passkey support, or should I just use passkeys with one of those things, or what's the deal? Long story short, I want to dive into passkeys because I think everybody should be using them and abandoning passwords altogether. And if I can do that, then the more people using it, the faster we're going to get support on every website ever, so that I don't ever have to think about copy pasting a password ever again. I try to break things. I set it up to 128 character passwords just to see if I can break it. Some stuff works, some stuff doesn't.
Sometimes you can. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So passkeys, though, I won't even get the chance to break things because it just works. It feels like it shouldn't work. It feels like it's wrong for how little I have to do to log into something with a passkey.
Yeah. Security is not supposed to be convenient. But this breaks the mold.
Somehow. Stay tuned. I want to talk about more about passkeys, but I need you to tell me if it's worth diving into Tailscale before they support that.
I'll just say they've added a bunch of identity providers since they initially started. They only had Google when they first started, so the fact that they have more now is encouraging.
Yeah. I can't just type in a generic username and a password 123.
No, because I don't think they don't keep track of your username and password. They don't care.
That's true. They let somebody else do it. All right, so I'll just use Microsoft, create a dummy account with a terrible username and a bad password, and I'll be good to go.
Yeah, I think exactly.
Okay. So if you haven't found us out on YouTube yet, You audio only? Well, we're on YouTube too. You can see our faces.
Yee.
I don't know if you want to do that. But if you do want to do that, sometimes there are things that we say that don't really fully get across until you see what the eyebrows are doing at the time. So it kind of makes it. It kind of makes it. So if you haven't checked us out on YouTube, make sure you go do that. We have the full show episodes. We have something that actually doesn't come out on the podcast stream. That is the live streams that we mentioned in the last segment. So that's something exclusive to YouTube, I think. But we're also on Twitch, obviously. If you want to go watch that live, all those live streams happen on Twitch. They stay there for a couple days, but they get archived over on YouTube. So you can check those out one way or the other. The history stuff, the deep dive learning stuff that we have that we're about to get into. If you're watching this on YouTube day one, it'll be a couple days. Then we'll push that out by itself as a single. But that can all be found on Tilvids when we release those by themselves. So that's like the Debian history, the Slackware history, I don't know, what other kind of histories did we did? The Vim history, Emacs history, all kinds of
the
things.
text editors, the whole series. Yeah, that was good.
We got distracted from distros and then did text editors for a little while, but we're doing the exact same thing right here, and we got distracted from distros again to talk about compression algorithms.
Yeah.
The history of math.
So
that'll show up on Tilvids here pretty soon. And then, of course, if you like the work that we do, if you enjoy these history deep dives, if you like our terribly, terribly bad takes on all things internet, you can always support us over on Patreon. Encourages us to do more deep dives, encourages us to be, more and more wild and weird and I don't know. And the more you do it, the faster we get those T-shirts out there, I guess, right?
We need to work on that, Leo.
It's just a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and there are a couple. There's a couple easy ways to do it, but it's still a lot of work.
It's time.
If we know you care about the swaggy stuff. There are a couple of folks that we have on the slate that we're just gonna send stuff to. But if you're a fan of the swag, you gotta let us know, and then I might encourage us to go ahead and get that all set up. So anyway, patreon.com/Linux Userspace. Look us up on Tilvids. We're Linux Userspace, and of course on YouTube, youtube.com/Linux Userspace. Find us. We're out there. Go watch.